Sometimes it don't take much to send me back. Just the smell of apples baking in the oven, warm, cinnamon sweet, like Mama used to make, and suddenly I'm not sitting here in my kitchen with this cup of tea. I'm right back in 1961, first week of September. Lord have mercy, seems like 100 years ago now. But I remember it clear as yesterday. It was that particular crispness in the air, the kind I mean, when summer's slipping out the back door and fall's waiting on the porch. Back in my day, the seasons used to come knockin' proper. We didn't need a calendar to tell us school was about to start. You could feel it. You could smell it. Chalk dust. Fresh wax on wooden floors. New pencils still sharp, lined up in a red tin box. Oh honey, that smell of a new book. Not these fancy tablets and screens you young folks got. I mean the real thing. Paper. Ink. Possibility. I'll tell you what. I hadn't thought about that day in years. But then last Sunday, I pulled out Mama's old recipe box, hadn't touched it since she passed, and tucked inside her apple pie card was this little drawing. A child's hand, uneven crayon lines, faded over time, but plain as day it said, "My first day at school." I was scared, but I smiled. That was me. 6 years old, pigtails tight as fence wire, knees knockin' in my saddle shoes. And Lord, it hit me like a freight train. That morning, that dress Mama stitched by hand, blue gingham with a little white collar, tied at the armpits, 'cause I'd had a summer growth spurt. That lunchbox, red metal with a picture of Roy Rogers on it. I used to think it was the fanciest thing in the world. Peanut butter sandwich, apple, and a napkin she kissed with her lipstick on it. Said, "So you don't forget Mama's love." You see, I didn't know it then, no child does, but that day was the first time I learned what it meant to leave the comfort of home and step into the great big world. A tiny schoolhouse down the lane, for classrooms, bell tower that hadn't rung right since '53. But for me, it was the universe. I've held on to that day in my heart all these years. Not because it was easy. Oh no, I was terrified. My belly hurt from nerves, and I nearly turned back twice before I reached the school gate. But something happened that morning, something I've never told anyone. You young folks might not think much of it, but that first day, it changed me. Taught me something I've been carrying around ever since, tucked under my ribcage like an old secret. And lately, well, I've been thinking maybe it's time I let it out. So, if y'all don't mind sitting a spell with an old woman, I'll tell you what happened that day. All of it. What I felt, what I feared, who helped me, and why, all these decades later, I still dream of that bell tower every now and again. But I'll warn you, once you open the door to memory, it don't shut easy. Now, tell me something. Do you remember your first day? Or have you been trying to forget it all this time? Go on. I dare you to remember. Back then, the world was slower. Not just the clocks, everything. We didn't have television in every room, no cell phones buzzing in our pockets. Folks looked each other in the eye when they talked, and if you waved to someone from the porch, well, they waved right back, even if they didn't know you from Adam. I was just a little thing, 6 years old, freckled cheeks, hair in braids tied with faded ribbons from last Christmas. We didn't have much, Lord knows. We didn't have a pot to pee in, but we had love, and that counts for more than you'd think. We lived in a small clapboard house out in rural Kentucky, just a stone's throw from the cornfields and a good holler from the river bend. Daddy worked sunup to sundown down at the mill, came home with sawdust in his hair and calluses like leather. Mama kept the home bright, always baking or mending or humming hymns while hanging out the wash. You could smell her biscuits halfway down the lane. My big brother Tommy was already in 3rd grade and full of sauce, and I was just the baby girl who followed him around like a shadow. Our days had a rhythm to 'em. Roosters crowing before sunrise. biscuits and sorghum on the table, school bell ringing down the hill, evenings on the porch, shelling peas or just listening to the crickets do their singing. And Sundays, oh, Sundays were for church and fried chicken and Mama's buttermilk pie and naps so peaceful they felt like heaven. That was just the way things were back then. I remember thinking the world was a kind place, mostly because Mama said it was. People are good deep down, she used to say, kissing my forehead. You just gotta look past the dust sometimes. I believed her. I believed everything she told me. I believed that if you were kind, kind things would come back to you. I believed that the stars in the sky watched over us, and if I wished hard enough, one of them might carry my dreams straight to the moon. And boy, did I dream. I dreamed of being a school teacher with a shiny red apple on her desk. I dreamed of marrying a man who played guitar like Hank Williams and smelled like pipe tobacco. I dreamed of having a house with lace curtains and a white picket fence and maybe a dog named Buttons. I didn't know much about the world outside our little town, but I figured it couldn't be too different. People laughed, cried, ate supper, danced. That's how we did it in those days. I wasn't scared of the future then. I wasn't worried about bills or boys or being left behind. I had a heart full of wonder and a belly full of cornbread, and that felt like enough. If someone asked me who I was back then, I'd be told you. I'm Lila May, and I love kittens and cherry popsicles and Sunday dresses. That's all I needed to be. But the funny thing about childhood is, you don't realize it's leaving until it's already gone. Like a train you wave at but never board. And for me, that train started moving the day I stepped through that schoolhouse door. I didn't know it then, but the world was about to teach me things Mama's kitchen never could. That morning, I remember the way the wind tugged at my dress, like it didn't want me to go. My legs were trembling under my tights, and my braids felt too tight, like they were holding in all my thoughts. Daddy had already gone to work, and Mama was fussing over my lunch like it was the Queen of England coming to eat it. She tucked a gingham napkin in the box and slipped a peppermint into the corner. For bravery, she said with a wink, kissing the top of my head, "You'll be just fine, sugar." But I sure didn't feel fine. The schoolhouse sat like a quiet giant at the end of the lane, red paint chipping off the sides, windows like sleepy eyes watching us approach. I'd never gone further than the church steps alone before, but that morning, Mama took my hand and we walked together. I still remember how her fingers felt, warm, soft, with a little scratch from yesterday's pie crust. And then, just like that, she let go. The bell rang, and I swear my heart skipped. Not from the sound, but from what it meant. The start of something, and the end of something else. And that's when I saw her. She stood in the doorway, a tall figure in a blue dress with little white flowers, glasses on a chain, and hair that was pinned up so neat it looked like a crown. Miss Eleanor Whitmore, my very first teacher. Lord have mercy, I didn't know folks could look that calm and proud all at once. She didn't smile like other grown-ups, not wide and silly, but soft, like she'd already seen every part of you and wasn't scared of any of it. She looked right at me, right into me. "Good morning, Miss Lila May," she said, like we'd known each other all our lives. "Come on in. Today's the start of your story." I didn't even know how she knew my name. I just clutched my lunchbox tighter and nodded, stepping into that classroom like I was crossing some invisible line between my old life and something brand new. There were 12 of us in that little room. Desks all in rows, globe spinning slow in the corner, smell of chalk and floor polish thick in the air. And then he walked in. Last one. A boy in overalls, hair like it didn't want to be combed, eyes a kind of green the first hadn't seen before. He didn't say a word, just looked around, spotted an empty desk beside me, and sat down. Didn't even ask. But when he turned and looked at me, not like a boy looks at a girl, not yet, but like someone looking at the sky right before a storm, well, I couldn't breathe for a second. I didn't know why. I didn't have words for it. I just felt my cheeks go red, and my hands get clumsy, and my heart beat. Oh, it was loud. Too loud. I didn't know it then, but both of Miss Whitmore and that quiet boy, they'd change me. One would teach me how to read the world. The other would teach me how to feel it. And all I could think, sitting there with my scuffed shoes barely touching the floor, was, why do I feel like I already know this place and these people? Sometimes life taps you on the shoulder. That day, it knocked on my heart. I wish I could tell you every day after that was filled with storybooks and sunshine, but it wasn't. See, life has a way of turning corners when you least expect it. And for me, that corner came just 3 days after I started school. It was a Wednesday. The rain had come overnight hard, loud, like it was trying to wash the whole town away. Mama bundled me up in a yellow slicker 2 sizes too big and kissed my cheek with a tired sigh. Be good, baby. Don't talk back today. I didn't understand what she meant by that at the time, but later. Lord, I did. That morning we had reading aloud. Miss Whitmore sat up front with her big, red book, the one with the golden spine and a crease right down the middle. She called on each child one by one. When she said my name, my heart dropped straight into my belly. I stood up, hands shaking, breath hitching. The words were right there on the page, simple ones. The cat ran fast, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. My tongue felt too thick, my throat too dry. I opened my lips, and nothing came out. I could hear snickers starting in the back. One boy even whispered, "She's too dumb to read." I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Miss Whitmore waited. Not long, just a breath, but it felt like a century. Then she said gently, "That's all right, Lila May. We'll try again tomorrow." But I saw her eyes shift. Not mean, not cold, just worried. And that broke something inside me. After class, I sat on the steps alone, picking at my peanut butter sandwich. My chest was tight. I didn't want to go home. Didn't want to tell Mama. I figured she'd just say, "Well, you should have practiced more," or worse, say nothing at all. Then, out of nowhere, that quiet boy, the one with the green eyes, came and sat down beside me. He didn't say a word, just handed me half his apple and looked straight ahead like it wasn't any big deal. But I'll tell you what, that was the kindest thing anyone did for me all week. I didn't even know his name yet, but I never forgot that apple. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my stutter, about how my words got stuck, how my cheeks burned, how everyone looked at me like I was broken. And the worst part? I started to believe it. Maybe I was broken. Maybe something was wrong with me. And if you've ever been a child who's believed they're not enough, well, you know the kind of ache that leaves. I didn't tell Mama. I didn't tell Daddy. I just tucked it deep down and promised myself I'd try harder, be quieter, not draw attention. That was the beginning of me learning to shrink, not 'cause I wanted to, but 'cause I thought I had to. But here's the thing no one tells you when you're little. Sometimes it ain't the big moments that shape you. It's the tiny, painful ones. The ones that make you sit still when your soul wants to run. The ones that teach you how to carry weight before your shoulders are even strong enough. And somewhere in all that quiet pain, a little voice started whispering inside me, not very loud yet, but steady. "You're gonna make it through. Just not the way you thought." I remember the light that morning. It was softer than usual, like the sun didn't want to rise all the way. The air was still, like even the trees knew not to rustle. Mama's biscuits were in the oven, but she wasn't humming, and that alone told me something wasn't right. I'd been in school for a few weeks by then. I still didn't speak much, and I still stumbled when I read, but I was getting used to the routine. Miss Whitmore had started letting me stay in a few minutes after class to practice. She was patient, never rushed me. And that boy, Sam, I'd learned his name was, well, he never said much either, but he always sat near me, gave me the last bite of his lunch sometimes. Just quiet company. You don't realize how loud kindness is till it walks in without saying a word. But that day, it all changed. It was supposed to be show and tell. I brought in Mama's old brooch, the one with the little pearls and the gold leaf on it. It was the only thing she had from her mama. I wrapped it up careful in a handkerchief and kept it safe in my lunchbox. I remember thinking, maybe today I'll finally stand up and speak in front of the class. But when I got to school, something fell off. The bell never rang. Kids stood around outside, confused, restless. Miss Whitmore wasn't at the door. And then I saw the principal, Mr. Cafferty, coming down the walk, hat in his hands, face like stone. He walked right up to me and said, soft and low, Lila May, you need to come with me, sweetheart. Now, when a grown-up uses your full name and don't smile, you know it ain't good news. They sat me down in the office, big clock on the wall ticking, so loud it felt like a hammer. I stared at it so long I stopped hearing it, and then Mama came in. Eyes red, hands twisting that same handkerchief I'd used to wrap her brooch. Baby, she said, her voice cracking. There was an accident at the mill this morning. Your daddy, she couldn't finish. But I knew. I remember how everything just stopped. The clock, my breath, my thoughts, the world. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, staring at the floor tiles, counting the blue ones like they might lead me somewhere else. My chest felt like it was full of bricks, and all I wanted was to go back to yesterday, to 5 minutes ago, to before. When they let me go home, I forgot my lunchbox, left the brooch sitting on the classroom shelf. I never even got to show it, and I never wore that yellow slicker again. You see, that was the day I learned about silence. Not the good kind, the peaceful kind, like sitting by the river with your thoughts. No, this silence was cruel. The kind that wraps round your throat and keeps you from speaking. The kind that steals your voice when you need it most. I'd always thought if you were good, if you prayed and smiled and tried real hard, the world would be good back. But that day, I knew better. That was the day I realized life doesn't make promises. Not even to little girls with braided hair and pearl brooches. And I swear to you, for the rest of my life, every time a bell didn't ring, I held my breath. After Daddy passed, the days just slowed down. Not in the sweet way they used to, not like porch sitting and pie cooling on the sill. No, this was a heavy kind of slow. Like walking through mud with stones in your boots. Everything felt muted. Even the birds outside seemed to sing a little softer, like they knew not to be too cheerful. Mama changed, too. She still cooked, still swept, still kissed me goodnight, but her eyes stayed far away, like she was watching something only she could see. And I reckon she was memories, maybe, or regrets. She stopped wearing her Sunday hat, stopped humming. She'd just sit by the window sometimes with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring out at nothing. And me, I got quiet, real quiet. I went back to school, but I wasn't the same. I kept my eyes low, my voice lower. Miss Whitmore didn't push. She just started leaving me little notes in my workbook. You did good today. Or, I'm proud of you, like she was trying to build a bridge back to me, one word at a time. But I wasn't ready to cross it yet. Sam still sat beside me, still shared his apple. But we didn't talk. We didn't need to. We just existed beside each other. Two kids learning how to live with the things we couldn't name. I remember one afternoon, sitting on the swing out back, watching the wind twist the clothesline. The sky was too blue, like it didn't know how gray I felt inside. And I thought, so this is what it means to lose something you can't get back. It wasn't just Daddy. It was the version of me that believed the world was safe, that life had rules, that if you were kind, the world would be kind back. That little girl, she was gone. I didn't cry much, not the way folks expected. My tears came out in other ways, in the way I held my pencil too tight, in the way I folded my clothes just so, in the way I didn't ask for seconds even when I was hungry. I was trying to be easy, to take up less space. Like maybe if I was careful enough, quiet enough, nothing else would break. And for a while, that's just how I lived. Between lines, between bell rings, between the girl I was and the girl I was becoming. People don't talk much about the middle part of grief, the part where you're still breathing, still moving, but not really living. You go to school, you eat your supper, you do your chores, and all the while, there's this hollowness inside you, not empty exactly, just still. Sometimes I wondered if I'd ever feel whole again, if laughter would stop feeling guilty, if memories would stop hitting me like a train. I'd lie in bed at night and stare at the ceiling, asking questions with no answers. Where did Daddy go? Can he see me? Am I being brave enough? One night, I asked Mama if she thought Daddy was proud of me. She didn't say nothing for the longest time, just looked at me with tears hanging on her lashes and whispered, "I know he is, baby. I know he is." And I held on to that. Because when everything else goes quiet, even a whisper of love can sound like a song. Hope don't always come running. Sometimes it just sits down beside you, real quiet like, and waits till you're ready to notice it. For me, it came on a Tuesday, same as any other, except it wasn't. The air had that late autumn bite to it, leaves all gone brittle underfoot. You could see your breath if you blew slow. I was still moving through the days like someone else was wearing my shoes. Get up. Washington school. Home. No highs, no lows, just floating. But that morning, Miss Whitmore handed out colored paper and said we were gonna make stars. Every one of you, she said, is gonna fold a wish into your star. Don't tell nobody what it is. Just tuck it deep in the folds. Most kids groaned or rolled their eyes, but me? I sat real still, holding that yellow square like it was made of gold. I didn't have a wish at first. I didn't believe in em no more, truth be told. Not since Daddy. Not since the brooch I never got to show. But something in me quiet and soft said, try. So I folded, careful, slow, my fingers trembling like they knew this meant more than it should have. And right in the center, I wrote one word, voice. I wanted it back, not just the one for speaking, but the one I'd lost inside. The one that used to sing when I ran through the cornfields or giggled when Daddy told silly stories. The one that believed the world still held good things. Sam looked over, saw my star, and gave a little nod. Didn't say nothing, just nodded like he knew. Then he handed me his blue paper, neat folds. I never saw what he wrote, and he never asked about mine. But I kept that star. Still got it, pressed between pages of an old hymn book. That same week, Miss Whitmore asked if anyone wanted to help clean up after class, wash the chalkboard, straighten the books, that sort of thing. I almost didn't raise my hand. I almost shrank back like I always had. But then I saw her look at me, not expecting, just hoping. So I raised my fingers, just a little. She smiled. Thank you, Lila May. It was small, a little moment. But when I stood at that chalkboard, rinsing away the day's lessons, I felt something shift. Like maybe I could still matter. Like maybe I still had something to give, even if it was just a clean slate for tomorrow. And that was the beginning. I started bringing Mama wildflowers I picked on the walk home. I made a card for Sam with crayons I hadn't touched since Daddy left. I sat beside Miss Whitmore during lunch one day and asked her how she got her name. "It means light," she said, smiling. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled back. You see, when grief takes root, it makes everything heavy. But hope grows quiet. It don't shout. It whispers. It hides in paper stars and chalk dust, in kind eyes and second chances. That week, I didn't cry. I didn't feel whole yet, but I felt something stir, like a bird stretching its wings after a long, cold night. And I thought maybe, just maybe, the world isn't done with me yet. I don't know exactly when it happened, but one morning I woke up, really woke up, and felt different. Not like the world had changed, but like I had. I remember the soft light coming through the window, that sweet hush the house had before the day started. But there was a heaviness in me, too, like I was carrying something that had been there too long. I'd spent months wrapped in memories of Daddy, of the day he left, of Mama's tired eyes and my own quiet heart. But somewhere along the way, I stopped running from it. Not 'cause I wanted to, but 'cause I realized I didn't have to be afraid anymore. I didn't have to let that loss decide who I was. I stood there in my room that morning, looking at the old wooden chest at the foot of my bed. It had been there since I was little. I'd filled it with all the things I thought would remind me of the past. Letters, photographs, bits of fabric from dresses Mama made me. All the little treasures that weighed me down. I'd never opened it since the day Daddy died. I guess I couldn't. But that day I knew what I had to do. I went over to the chest, my hands trembling just a little, but there was no fear in it. Just a strange kind of peace. I lifted the lid and looked at all the things I'd kept. Old memories, old hurts, things that didn't fit anymore. And right there, in that moment, I knew I had to let go. I reached inside, pulled out a photograph of Daddy, the last one taken before the mill accident. He had that goofy grin, the one he wore when he was trying to make me laugh. I hadn't looked at it in years. It used to break my heart to see it. But now I could smile. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel lost. I felt like he was still with me, just in a different way. Then I grabbed the little box with Mama's brooch, the one I never got to show on that first day of school. I had kept it close, like it was a piece of her I couldn't part with. But today I saw it differently. She wouldn't want me to keep it locked away, like it was the only part of her that mattered. She wanted me to live, to laugh, to make new memories. So I took that brooch, held it in my hand for a long moment, and then I placed it in the box beside the photo. I closed the lid, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to walk away. I walked outside, barefoot on the grass, feeling the cool earth beneath my feet. The sky was open bright and full of promise. I carried that box with me, not as a burden anymore, but as a part of me. And when I reached the little creek behind the house, I paused for just a moment. This is where it ends, I thought. This is where I let go. I opened the box, took one last look at the things inside, and dropped them into the water. The photo, the brooch, every little piece of the past I had carried with me for so long. And as the water carried them away, I felt something shift. Like the weight I'd been carrying for years was finally lifted. I had been living in the shadows of what I'd lost, afraid to let go. But now I was ready to let the past be the past, to step forward into whatever life had left for me. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of it. I was free. I had chosen to live, without guilt, without fear, without regret. It's funny how life changes. You think you know who you are, where you're going, and then suddenly it all shifts. Not in a big, dramatic way. No, it's the little shifts, the ones you don't even notice at first. But one day you wake up and realize you're someone new. Someone different than the girl who sat by the creek with a box full of memories. I look back on all those years now, and it feels like a lifetime ago. Some days, it still feels like that little girl is in me, hiding under all these years, all these layers. But I don't mind her anymore. She's part of me, and I'm part of her. I used to think the hardest thing was letting go of the past. But the truth is, the hardest thing is letting go of the idea that the past is all you are. We hold on to our memories like they're chains, but really, they're just lessons. Little reminders that we've lived, that we've loved, that we've hurt, and survived. You see, I thought once I let go of Daddy's photo, Mama's brooch, all those things that weighed me down, I'd finally be free. But it wasn't just the things that kept me bound. It was the belief that I couldn't move forward unless I had all the answers. That if I just waited long enough, the right moment would come, and I'd be healed. But here's the truth I've learned. There is no perfect time. There is no magic moment where everything makes sense. You can wait forever for the pain to go away, for the stars to align, for some grand revelation to hit you. But it doesn't work like that. The only way to find peace is to step into the mess, to walk through the storm without waiting for it to end. I didn't realize it back then, but all those years I spent waiting for the right time to heal, for the right time to be happy, I was missing out on my own life. I was standing on the edge of everything, afraid to take a step. And then one day, I just did. I stepped forward. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay where I was anymore. That's the lesson I carry now. The world doesn't stop spinning just because you're hurting. And it doesn't stop when you're waiting for a miracle. The miracle is in the movement. The healing happens when you keep going, even when you don't have the answers. When you start living again, even when you're not sure what comes next. I look at my life now and I don't see a perfect story, but I see a full one. A story full of scars, yes, but also full of strength, full of love, full of moments that, if I'd waited for them to be perfect, I would have missed. And if there's one thing I could share with someone who's waiting for their own miracle, it's this. Don't wait. Don't sit around thinking that someday, when the time is right, you'll be healed. You'll be ready. Because the truth is, you're already enough. You're already here. And that's the miracle. So, stop waiting for the stars to line up. Stop waiting for the hurt to go away. Just keep moving. Step forward, even if you can't see where you're going. Because sometimes, the only way to find what you're looking for is to take that first step into the unknown. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson we all need to learn. Well, here we are. I guess we've come a long way together, haven't we? You've heard the stories I've carried in my heart all these years, the ones I thought I'd never tell. And yet, somehow, here we are. I'm sitting on this porch swing, watching the sun go down, and I feel like I'm talking to an old friend. Funny how life works that way, isn't it? You think you're alone, but really, you've never been. You know, I used to think I was the only one with all these secrets. All this pain I kept hidden behind my smile. But now, when I look back on all the years, I see it differently. All those little pieces of me, the scared girl, the grieving daughter, the quiet woman, they were all part of the same story. And the truth is, that story is still going. I'll tell you something I've learned though. Life don't stop just 'cause we want it to. The world keeps turning no matter what. And sometimes, that's a good thing. You see, we spend so much time looking back, don't we? Thinking about the what-ifs and the might-have-beens. But the real truth is, the only thing we can do is take that first step forward. No matter how small, no matter how unsure, you might think you're waiting for some big moment to start living. But the secret is the big moments. They come when you least expect them, when you're not looking for them. And sometimes, when you've been through enough storms, you realize that you're stronger than you thought. You've always had it in you. You just had to learn how to listen to it. So, I'll leave you with this. I'm sitting here, still wondering about some things. Like, does true love ever really go away? I remember thinking about Daddy sometimes, how I thought we'd have more time together. And I'll tell you, sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I still feel him. Not in a way that makes me sad, but in a way that makes me smile, just a little. Maybe it's just the memories, or maybe it's something more. I don't know, but I like to think he remembers me too. Now, I know you're probably sitting there thinking about your own life. Maybe you've been through things you thought you couldn't handle. Maybe you've lost something, someone, or even a piece of yourself. I want you to know, you're not alone. And just like I had to learn, you'll find your way too. Even when you can't see the road, even when the clouds look too thick to find the sun, you'll find your way. Just keep walking, one step at a time. And before I let you go, I want to ask you one thing, something I've been asking myself for years. Do you think love, real love, ever really goes away? Does it always come back? Or do we just hold on to it in our hearts because we need to believe it's there? I'll tell you something. Sometimes I think he still remembers me. Maybe not the way I remember him, but in his own way. And that, my dear, is enough for me. It always has been. Now, you take care of yourself, all right? And don't wait for the perfect moment. Take the step, even when it's hard, because you never know what wonders are waiting for you just around the bend. I'm proud of you, you know. You're here, and that means you're already stronger than you think.